Final Fantasy VII is a really big deal. People love it for a reason. It brought JRPGs into the mainstream, shaping a ton of people's childhoods in the process. Like many others, FF7 was the first mainline Final Fantasy game I played. It goes without saying that I love it a great deal. So, when you're remaking a property with the level of impact as Final Fantasy VII, obviously it comes with a lot of risk. People's expectations were astronomically high, which is likely one of the reasons why the ending has become so controversial. So when I say that I thought the ending was fanfiction tier garbage by a hack director that should have continued making kids games, a good portion of you are going to feel extra validated now that I've reinforced your opinion. You'd be excited for a rant that tears 7R to shreds, and I'd get to revel in some easy reactionary clout, which would be the case if I actually thought any of that. And the last few sentences were an elaborate ruse to make an important point about expectations. Gotcha. I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake, especially the ending, but I think people who've been parroting that previously mentioned stance kind of missed the point. Or got the point and still just didn't like it. Both of those are completely valid. I haven't seen an ending this divisive in a very long time, but trust me when I say that I really do understand why people are mad. However, I genuinely haven't been able to stop thinking about how ambitious its new themes are, and have been theory crafting non-stop since seeing those credits roll, so I wanted to make a video on it. Please understand that the point of this is not to call out people who disagree with me. All I want is to break down exactly what happened and give my opinion on it, because I haven't felt this excited about the future of a new series in a very long time. I've also never made a video packed with spoilers before, so I'm just excited for a chance to analyze a game without having to hold back. I'm about to get deep and a little pretentious, but bear with me, it'll all make sense in the end. Probably. Hopefully. Now, I'm going to split this up into two parts. The first being a quick summary to make sure we're all on the same page, and the second being an analysis and discussion on the themes it pursues. There's going to be some interpretation for certain unknown aspects, so there's a chance some of what I say will not hold up in the future. And that's fine. I'm a big boy. I can take it. This isn't going to be a super long video essay covering the entire game. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about the ending specifically. A quick video that involved me replaying the opening segment of each game 3 times, and the ending segment of Remake like twice, both of which has led me spiraling down the rabbit hole of Final Fantasy VII analysis. So if I sound extra pretentious and unhinged, you can thank the hard drive crashes. With that being said, this is your last warning to turn back before we get into full-blown spoilers. Let's get into it. Chapter 18 starts with our gang escaping from Shinra HQ, and it's shown that Rufus is now able to see the Whispers. He gives the order to pursue, leading to an exhilarating motorcycle chase and boss fight. This is what we call kenography. Write this down, class, because we're going to be seeing a lot more of it, and it will be on the midterm. After it seems like they've finally made a break for it, they run into Sephiroth.
Sephiroth, what do you want?
The Whispers are going batshit crazy, the cast has sent visions of the best boy in existence, and Sephiroth hits us with a
I'm waiting, Cloud.
God, I wish that were me. Aerith tells the party that they're at Destiny's Crossroads, and says that on the other side is
freedom. Boundless, terrifying freedom. Like a great, never-ending sky.
She asks them not only to join her in stopping Sephiroth, but to fight fate itself, even if it has the possibility to change more. They decide to challenge Destiny, crossing the gates. Where they end up appears to be a Midgard just like their own, before a storm of Whispers destroys everything to attack them. A giant monster appears deemed by Barrett to be a Arbiter of Fate, which sends visions of the future to them as they battle it. After a final boss fight so epic it gives Kingdom Hearts a run for its money, it seems like they've defeated the Arbiter of Fate for good. That's of course before Sephiroth once again reveals himself. He scatters the entire party and then singles out Cloud as the meme music plays.
Let's finish this.
Then you actually fight one of the coolest final bosses in a video game, with Cloud's party joining him one by one as the music progressively gets more amazing.
It's tough.
Yeah, so what? Screw him.
I love everything about you. Working as a team, they're able to beat him and the Whispers once and for all, with Cloud's friends protecting him as he charges to deliver the final blow. Cloud decides to recreate the end of FF7, meeting Sephiroth one-on-one for one final encounter.
Careful now. That which lies ahead does not yet exist.
Then they proceed to have the coolest cutscene fight ever. But Sephiroth shows Cloud he still has a long way to go. He leaves him with one last cryptic remark.
These nuts. Got him!
That's not even funny, man.
Seriously though,
7 seconds till the end.
is one of the rawest lines I've ever heard. Ever. Cloud is left alone in a really amazing shot, Rufus takes over the company, and it's revealed that Zack now survived his iconic death. Maybe in a different timeline, but we don't really know yet. The whispers literally explode behind him as he's left in awe, and in the present we're shown the survivors of Sector 7 Rebuild, and we also find out that Big survived. The party, now having escaped Midgar, vowed to hunt down Sephiroth together and save the planet. They walk away from Midgar, and as the rain begins to fall, we're shown a vision of Zack and Cloud limping past them. Aerith stops and says,
I miss it. The steel sky.
with the words, "The unknown journey will continue," appearing on the screen before we fade to credits. It's so good! Now time for part 2, and where do we even begin with this? Well, I believe that Nomura and his team have successfully created the greatest piece of metafiction ever. I know there are some people who get furious at the mere idea of a game being meta, but personally, I've always found that it's the execution that makes or breaks those twists. If your game obnoxiously breaks the fourth wall without having anything to say, then that's when I can say that your twist doesn't work and feels really cheap. People have already lumped 7R together with this group, without realizing that, from the very beginning, Remake has been paving the road for exactly what we got, and managed to deliver a meta twist without ever once breaking the fourth wall, instead just popping its head over and blowing a little kiss your way. It does all of this with the use of metaphor, being subtle about the message it conveys but upfront about its delivery, which, granted, sounds confusing on paper, but you can thank Kazushige Nojima's big brain for the genius execution of this idea. The game as a whole is filled with nothing but love for the world of Final Fantasy VII, so I don't think the choices made here were as spiteful as people believe. People have accused them of jumping the shark, and some have even accused them of taking the axe to millions of people's childhoods. I don't agree with either sentiment, especially the second since it's hyperbolic and makes no sense. I mean, the original game can be played on everything sans the kitchen sink, and I know a guy who knows a guy who works at Square Enix that says that's on its way. But I digress. Instead, I view this as a commentary on fandoms and remake culture, but one that's layered on top of the themes of the original game. The developers have used this framework to emphasize that retelling the exact same story would have been safe and boring. People would have been satisfied, sure, but they would have never been able to provide returning players with the same sense of excitement if they spent the whole series checking off cool moments the original did, but in HD. In an interview for GameSpot, Remake's producer, Yoshinori Kitase, had this to say.
We have to meet people's expectations, give them what they want to see, but we have to go beyond that and really exceed their expectations and give them new surprises as well. So it was something we had to pay a lot of attention to, and we were very careful. It didn't just stop at, yeah, that was a great game, I remember this. We had to go further and provide a new experience.
The original game will always be there and the impact it left will never go away. So why remake something like that unless you had a reason to? Sure, the money made from remaking the most popular game Square Enix ever made is enticing, but there's clearly a very strong creative influence here. They wanted to go off and explore new ideas with these characters and truly surprise both new and returning players. They wanted to quite literally remake Final Fantasy VII for a new generation, while still keeping the original spirit alive. But there was a problem. The heavy restrictions of Final Fantasy VII's legacy would have held Remake back from doing anything truly new and meaningful. If they wanted to make something to live up to the legacy while still bringing new ideas to the table, something drastic needed to be done. They needed to sever people's expectations with Final Fantasy VII itself. That's where the metaphor comes into play, so the team could explore this theme in a way that didn't break the fourth wall. The whispers represent fate in terms of the plot itself, but they also represent the hardcore fans. They want this remake to go smoothly and are only fine with pre-existing events being fleshed out more as long as the destination is the same. That's exactly why the Whispers show up when things start to diverge heavily from the original timeline. They're frightened of a future that hasn't already been set in stone, and enforce that by correcting things that go off track. What they fail to understand though is that by giving these characters more freedom to grow, those people are naturally going to change in small ways and outgrow the restraints of fate. If I were to speculate as to why this is, I think Aerith is responsible for igniting this new spark in the cast. My theory is that the only ones who can see the Whispers of Fate are the ones capable of changing destiny, which only happens to Cloud after Aerith diverts him from his original path in Chapter 2. She spends the game knowing much more than she lets on, and I could go on for much longer on that whole thing, but I'll save that video for when we know exactly where Square is going with this. It's far too early to tell if this version of Aerith is on some kind of second time loop, but it's clear that she's the one that wants to fight fate the most, which is what the cast literally does. In a world that's been changed ever so slightly, each of the characters have forged new bonds that give them a new goal, and it's entirely in character for them to want to rebel against destiny. As they fight the Arbiter of Fate, they're given visions that don't make sense to them though, but make a lot of sense to us. They're shown what fate has in store for them, the future that the fans want to force them down no matter what, and decide to challenge it head on. Fate has been as cruel to them as it's been kind, having stolen the lives of so many people they cared about. They defeat the in-universe embodiment of fan expectations, but Fate gives them one last challenge to ensure that both Cloud's group and the players are ready to move on to this unknown future. What a better way to do this than to have them face off against the most iconic aspect of Final Fantasy VII itself, Sephiroth. This metaphor is only effective because every part of it has an equally significant parallel in regards to the story and the players who grew up with it. To so many people out there, he is the face of Final Fantasy VII, and the showdown with him was what people were the most excited to see. So, Square gave those people exactly what they wanted. They met their expectations one last time, having you revisit every single iconic moment between Cloud and Sephiroth. Also, they could pave the way for the future to come. On the surface, it seems like self-indulgent fan service, but it's very intentional. That's why Sephiroth shows up in this game so much more than he did originally, to introduce him to newcomers and to set up this conclusion, to make that final fight much more satisfying. He is Final Fantasy VII. He is the true Arbiter of Fate. His words to Cloud still stump me though, and imply that he's much different than the Whispers. It seems that despite fighting the party, he wanted them to change fates. He likely even used them to accomplish an unknown goal. Sephiroth is still one of the biggest mysteries of the game, but if I were to step back from the pretentious overanalyzing, I can at least say that at a surface level, this final fight's raw as hell. And what's the party's reward for overcoming this final challenge, you ask? The freedom of an unknown future, and the fear that comes with it. And that right there is the true message of Final Fantasy VII Remake. We don't know what tomorrow brings, and it's scary. The playing field has been leveled, and now every single one of us has no idea what's waiting for us. The audience is in the same position as Cloud and his friends, with a completely unknown journey ahead of them. This moment right here, this feeling you get from this, completely intentional. Some of us are excited by this, and others are just as terrified. Nevertheless, that's one of the many parts of life, and what a better way to explore that idea than when adapting Final Fantasy VII, which is a story about life, about living it to the fullest despite all the unexpected hardships and pain. It's because of this that I firmly believe this doesn't betray the themes of the original game. Again, you're probably thinking this is way past the point of pretentious interpretation, but I really don't think so on this aspect. If you go back to the first teaser trailer released in 2015, this one line makes a ton of more sense now with context of this ending.
The reunion at hand may bring joy. It may bring fear. But let us embrace whatever it brings.
We never know what the future holds, and that can scare us. But it's important to know that we're not alone. There are always going to be people who love and support you, who'll be there to help you get back up, face your fears, and keep moving forward. Even Aerith, who wanted this the most, still shows she's scared. They all are. We all are. But the only thing to do is to embrace whatever life might bring and continue on. The way they explored that theme is beautiful, and why I feel that despite the game's obvious flaws, Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of the most impactful games I've played in a very long time. I'm excited for the potential of this new series, but I know why people are scared about what it means. Some people are choosing to interpret these changes as the team undoing impactful character deaths. but I disagree. I think this means that the fate of the entire cast is now up in the air. People are just as safe as they are unsafe, which again is exciting since we don't know what to expect. Things are changing and there's a lot of mysteries left up in the air. We have no idea what they're going to do with Zack, and while I have plenty of theories about it and actually think it's very well set up in terms of Remake's story, only time will tell if this goes anywhere meaningful. But I'm going to choose to be optimistic. You don't have to agree with my stance, and that's okay. Life is full of so many unique opinions and philosophies, but that's why living it is so worthwhile. Excitement and fear coexist and are completely natural. We won't know the answers for a long time, but I have faith that Nomura and his team are going to shoot past our wildest expectations and give us something truly special. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry if that got a little too cheesy at the end, but Real quick, I have to do some quick thanks. Huge shout out to Foxcade, Supreme Zerker, and Kingdom Claned for helping me go over my script and kinda iron some stuff out a little bit. It was really fun discussing this with them. And big super duper thanks to King K for actually providing his voice for Yoshinori Kitase there. I know a lot of you were not expecting this video from me and were probably wanting the Persona 5 Royal, Why You Should Care. I'm sorry for not being able to work on that sooner, just been in a very weird mental state, but I wanted to get back into it, and it's been a while since a video game has made me care this much about anything, so I use this video as a chance for me to kind of kickstart me back into working on videos, you know, stop being a dumb sad boy. Anyway, that'll be it from me. Hope you all have a great one. Bye bye.